Former President Trump is still banned from Facebook and Instagram. The company's oversight board upheld the president's suspension, saying his posts during the Capitol riot, quote, severely violated Facebook's rules and encouraged and legitimized violence. Many on social media were outraged by the decision. Hashtag delete Facebook was trending over on Twitter. President Trump also released this statement a short time ago, quote, what Facebook, Twitter, and Google have done is a total disgrace and an embarrassment to our country. These corrupt social media companies just pay a political price, or must pay a political price, and must never again be allowed to destroy and decimate our electoral process. Let's find out more about what's at stake here for the president and these social media companies, and welcome in Newsmax White House correspondent Emerald Robinson, who joins us now from Washington. Hey, Emerald.
Hi, John. Good to see you. Yes, we still will not hear from the president on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, but the former president maintains communication via these press releases that he's putting out from the office of 45, and now his new platform that's a little more like a blog, if you will, from the desk of Donald J. Trump. But let's talk about what the former president did say. His reaction came just a short time ago via a press release, as he's wont to do lately since being banned from social media. As you said, he called it a disgrace and an embarrassment. He said free speech has been taken away from the president of the United States because the radical left lunatics are afraid of the truth. But the truth will come out anyway, bigger and stronger than ever before. Now, the oversight board, which oversees Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, also put out a statement via Twitter, since they can, explaining their decision. Now, it's interesting because they also slammed Facebook. They said in their statement that they found that Facebook violated its own rules by imposing this ban and saying that this suspension and saying that it was indefinite. So they're saying the time frame is not allowable and that they're giving Facebook 6 months to come to some other solution. They're saying they upheld this ban because of what the former president said on social media and saying that it contributed to violence on January 6th. But now this is sort of the interesting part, John. In their statement, the oversight board also said that Facebook should resist government pressure to silence political dissidents and resist the temptation to squelch free speech. And a lot of people say that's exactly what is happening here in this ban. So this is where we are right now. Clearly, Twitter is seeing the repercussions. Stocks have dropped based on some of the moves that they're making. And like I said, the former president has moved to a platform that's a little more blog-like. John, it's receiving sort of mixed reactions. I think people thought he was going to unveil a platform of his own that allows social media interaction that's more like Twitter or Facebook, and this is more like a blog. But what he said on the Candace show yesterday in a phone interview sounded like he could consider coming to another platform that allows social media interaction. It hasn't, censored conservatives, or he could do something else. That's still not out of the picture. So there could be future plans. This is just for right now.
Yeah, this is really, it's a wild statement, Emerald, to read this from the oversight board. It sounds like it's a quasi-governmental entity, and the way they talk about to the government, like, how dare you even consider this? And this is also interesting here when they kind of chide Facebook as well. Facebook should publicly explain the rules that it uses when it imposes account-level sanctions against influential users. Yes, please do. I mean, it's just wild to see this. This is where we are.
We don't like that. Right.
This group, this basically nameless, faceless body that we just heard about recently has so much power. This is going to definitely deserve some deeper conversation. And Emerald, speaking of Candace, I believe someone on this screen, not me, is going to make an appearance, right?
I was on there yesterday. Yeah, so I was on the same episode as President Trump. I was on the panel before his interview, and we discussed big tech a lot because clearly I myself and my fellow panelists like Michael Knowles and Ian Haworth, who are of the Daily Wire, as well as Candace, have all experienced this for ourselves. And there's a growing chorus for lawmakers to actually do something about it. Kevin McCarthy, the minority leader today, tweeted that Facebook should be held accountable. Well, who's going to hold them accountable? Accountable. Many say that's his job, but we just haven't seen that from them yet. So that was a big part of the discussion. And, also looking at other platforms.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot out there, startups that are getting some traction.
Right. And what I can't seem to get away from here, Emerald, is that this oversight board seems to have more authority here than Kevin McCarthy does, or the federal government does, or the regulatory bodies that are supposed to look after this stuff. And that's where we're at. All right, Emma Robinson, thanks so much, and check out her on the Candace Owens Show if you get a chance. Thanks so much, Emma.
Bob, Heather, Facebook is unfriending Donald Trump. The company's oversight board says his account, which has been suspended and under review for nearly 4 months, will never be reinstated. The oversight board says it, quote, has upheld Facebook's decision to suspend Mr. Trump's access to post content on Facebook and Instagram. It claims Trump, quote, encouraged and legitimized violence. But the board also says, quote, Facebook violated its own rules by imposing a suspension that was indefinite. This penalty is not described in Facebook's policies. It has no clear criteria and gives Facebook total discretion on when to impose or lift it. Facebook created the board in response to its handling of content. Members are selected and paid by the social media giant, and decisions cannot go against content moderation guidelines set by the company. The board's charter states the decisions it makes are binding and allegedly cannot be overruled by CEO Mark Zuckerberg or anyone else at Facebook. Trump is blasting the ruling, saying, quote, what Facebook, Twitter, and Google have done is a total disgrace and embarrassment to our country. Free speech has been taken away from the President of the United States because the radical left lunatics are afraid of the truth, adding, quote, the people of our country will not stand for it. These corrupt social media companies must pay a political price and must never again be allowed to destroy and disseminate our electoral process. But the board's decision to uphold Trump's Facebook ban comes just one day after he launched his own communications platform, and that's just the beginning. Advisor Jason Miller says, quote, President Trump's website is a great resource to find his latest statements and highlights from his first term in office, but this is not a new social media platform. We'll have additional information coming on that front in the very near future. So Miller says that Trump has additional plans in store for social media, but there's an interesting note here when it comes to Facebook. The CEO that visited Trump the most at the White House while he was president was Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg. Bob, Heather, back to you.
Well, just before Facebook's oversight board decided to uphold Mr. Trump's suspension, the former president launched a new communications platform of his own. Let's take a look at this.
Consign him and those who supported him in the Senate to the trash heap of history.
Twitter permanently banning the commander-in-chief's personal account with 88 million followers.
All right, joining us now to weigh in on this topic is constitutional law and civil rights attorney Ken Belkin. I think what we saw there is the beginning of a platform. It's not really an active platform yet, but it looks like he's going that direction. But as far as banning the former president, I wanted to ask you, Ken, are there any constitutional issues at work here?
Look, the First Amendment really prohibits government action, which inhibits free speech. Now, there's a lot of talk that these social media companies should be treated like utilities, such as the telephone companies. You know, for instance, the telephone companies provide you with the technology to communicate, but they have no say over what is communicated. And largely, anything you say is fine on a telephone, so long as it's not a threat or a harassment that would be in violation of the law. But as the law currently stands, Facebook is a private company. They have the right to do what they want with their technology.
So is there any possibility, or how do you change that? Because clearly these companies, Facebook being one of them, are part of the public square now, which is how people are communicating and sharing ideas and thoughts and that type of thing.
Yeah, we're going to have to grapple with that as a society because we've never had communications technology like we have today. And they're all operated by private companies. They're not considered utilities. And the fact of the matter is they are becoming the arbiters of the national conversation. And as such, we're going to have to really look at how the First Amendment is impacted by that and potentially expand those First Amendment protections in light of it.
I think you used the term public square on purpose.
Yes.
And we haven't discussed this ahead of time, but from what I've read, for instance, you can be a private entity and have on the public square a conversation that suddenly changes from just being private conversation, and that you indeed have certain public obligations, and among those would be free speech. So do you think that can be changed by, for instance, making it more like the phone company, make it more like a utility? Or is there some other avenue in which there could be more fairness distributed?
I think we're going to have to do that as a society, because inevitably, if we don't, people like Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook or Jack Dorsey at Twitter, they are going to have this ungodly amount of power to steer the national conversation and to censor people, to cancel people, and to prevent people from communicating ideas. And as a nation, that should be something we're all opposed to, because we're founded on a principle that ideas should be communicated and the best ideas should win out. Yeah. And you don't get to those best ideas without free communication.
That's true. I mean, you need to hear the alternate viewpoint in order to, establish yours or maybe change yours. That's what America's supposed to be about. In terms of what has happened specifically to the former president, what options does he have? Because we should clarify that what was decided is that this indefinite ban will have to be reassessed in 6 months.
Well, he's got, options. He can start his own platform as he did today. He's certainly got the money to do something like that. But really, his options are constricted because the law allows these companies right now to sort of have carte blanche with what they publish.
All right. So the thing is, the next person that it could happen to would be you or I, if it could happen to the former president of the United States of America.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
you tweeted out.
Yeah, so that should be a concern for everyone. Yeah, we did send out some tweets earlier asking people what they thought about it. Earlier today, I sent this out. What do you think about Facebook's decision to uphold their ban on the 45th president of Donald Trump? One Twitter user who responded said Zuckerberg and company just secured the GOP taking the House and Senate in November 2022 and President Trump back in the White House in 2024. And then another person wrote this saying, honestly, I think Facebook is going to be a thing of the past very soon. That being said, I believe I heard that President Trump was going to start his own social media platform. That should be a lot better than Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And then finally, one more response. More interesting is they still post LeBron and Maxine Waters. I guess integrity doesn't matter at Facebook. So lots of folks thinking that this is not an appropriate decision by this panel that made it.
All right, Ken, thank you very much, sir.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.